Well, good evening. My name is Doug Lucas, and we're coming to you tonight from the outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky. We call the channel Emerald Hill Skies because we're located here on the campus of Emerald Hills on the southeastern corner of Louisville. Tonight we're going to try what you might call speed observing. We're going to tackle 25 objects from the Herschel 400 list of deep space objects. And if you do the math, over the course of 2 hours, that's less than 5 minutes per object. And some of these objects are extremely faint in the Herschel 400. In fact, these are all objects that we've never observed before. So we have no idea how faint and what kind of trouble we're going to get into limiting ourselves to just 5 minutes. But we do have a RASA 11 telescope, has a very fast focal ratio, 2.2. It's outside there in our Pier-Tech 2 observatory on top of an adjustable height Pier-Tech Pier. We're using for our main camera the ZWO ASI2600MC Pro. It's an astro-specific camera. It's mounted on the front of the RASA, as you can see. Down at the base we have all the power distribution equipment, and throughout the night you'll see us referring sometimes to our sky cam. This shows us kind of the big picture of what the sky looks like. And then we'll also be able to show you here on the screen exactly what the scope is seeing from the observatory. And so let's take a look at what we're seeing so far. We're looking at NGC 6517, which is a globular cluster in the constellation Ophiuchus. And you can perhaps see this globular cluster right in the middle of the frame. And we're getting started a little bit early just so we can cheat a little bit and have just a little bit of a cushion of 3 or 4 extra minutes, because there's no way we could fit 5 minutes per object for 25 objects. So we're basically just going to go ahead and grab our picture of this globular cluster. And this is a little bit of digital zoom. This is a very tiny cluster. We are just going to see what Stephen James O'Meara says about this. This is 6517. He says it's barely visible with averted vision as a faint 2 arc-minute haze. At 672 power, he says, the cluster does not appear much better. It remains a dim, uniformly bright glow. NGC 6517 globular cluster. You know, the RASA 11 is doing a little bit better than Steve O'Meara's 6-inch was doing. We can make out some of the stars at the edge of this globular cluster. Who knows how old this thing is? So we've got our picture. Now we want to try to go to live sky, and we're going to go ahead and remove it from our working list, and that way we know that we've observed it. We're going to go back to our planetarium software, which is it's Starry Night Pro Plus, and we're going to say add this to our list of H400, the Herschel 400 observed. And that way we know we've observed it. And I think we're done. So let's go back to our imaging software. We're using SharpCap 4.0, of course. And we'll run our little sequencing program that sets us up for our next target. And our next target is NGC 6426. NGC 6426. So we'll go ahead and grab that 6426. So we've got that queued up now, and we'll say slew to it. And then we'll open up the, we didn't do our little observation here. We could resolve stars at the edge of this glob. Just something to let us know that we observed it. And then let's go to, you know what I didn't do while we're here, I didn't set the, I don't think I set the 64, we're still on, 6517. Let's go back and grab the 6517 because I don't think I set 6517. Let's just check that to see if I set the, I didn't. The observing list is H400 all, and it picked up our observing session, and then let's identify our equipment here, and then it should stay, I hope, the rest of the night. So that's done. Now let's go back to our next target, which is 6426. 6426. And we're going to slew to that and open up the info panel on it and center on it as well. Let's go back to sharp cap, and let's do a plate solve on that. Go back to auto here. Let's see, make sure we've got our audio running okay on our live stream. Yep, that sounds good. Hey, we've already got 9 people here. There's Daniel. Ooh, will today be cool? I think I can stay for a while before going to sleep. Thank you, Daniel, for being here. Kimberly, good to have you here from Florida. Dane, you're back from, like, up in Minnesota, I think. Etienne, back from Quebec. Good to have you guys here. You guys are faithful friends, my goodness. Okay, so we're just 400ths off on our plate solving. Let's switch to our imaging run, start imaging, and it is 10:01, so we're just 1 minute behind schedule. We should have started imaging this at 10. We're going to try to do 5 minutes per object, and we have 24 objects to go, so every minute counts here. This object is the NGC 6426, and it is also a globular cluster, and it's in Ophiuchus as well. A globular cluster in Ophiuchus. Now, the question is, are we seeing our tidal? We started our live stacking. Are we seeing our tidal? Let's go back to our screen view. Yeah, there we go. And let's change this to NGC 6426 as well. Boy, nothing visible there yet. That's disconcerting, isn't it? 6426. Boy, doesn't look like it has very much going on there, does it? Let's oh yeah. So it says it's another small dim globular cluster. It's small and very difficult to see, requiring a lot of breathing and the use of averted vision. It's nothing more than an ill-defined puff of faint light. Yikes. Wow. How will we ever bring this out in just 5 minutes? I think our color is okay. Let's open up, look at a little bit more of the sky glow. Oh, I think I might be seeing it right there in the middle. That's it. Well, we are at least resolving it already. Happy to say. That's NG 66426. So we're going to say Steve O'Meara called this nothing more than an ill-defined puff of light. But our RASA 11 is bringing out a little more resolution than his 4-inch could see. So we're actually doing a little better. It's kind of a loose, this is a loose globular. All right, so we've got our observation there. Let's snap a picture of this. And Dane says, I see a cloud. Must be really far away. Let's see. We're going to go back to live sky. This is 6426. 6426. And delete it from our working. Okay, and save that. Going to go back to Starry Night Pro Plus. Add it to the list of H400 observed. Okay. My goodness, it's 5 after. That's how fast this has to be, gang. We are right on track now if we just hurry up and get to the next object, which is 6633, NGC 6633. And let's go back over to Starry Night Pro, NGC. This is like speed observing. We're going to salute to it, even though we haven't turned off our live stacking yet. Do that. Turn off our live stacking. Next target. And we're going to say open up an info pane about it. This is an open cluster. NGC 6633, and we're going to center on it. And just as soon as we stabilize a bit, we're going to do one more plate solve. 6633 is an open cluster in Ophiuchus. And so down here in our title, we'll say 6633 an open cluster in Ophiuchus. Oh yeah, there it is. So we're still settling in here. Let's back away some. Look at that. So we really don't have to stack this one, do we? 1007. We can stack it just for a minute just to see if there's something we're missing, but we can already make out that open cluster there, can't we? Want to just welcome the dozen or so people that are on board with us. If you are listening in and you haven't already done so, please tell us where you're logged in from, where you're observing from tonight, and we're glad to have you aboard. Tonight's session, we're going to try to go through 25 objects in 2 hours. So if you run the math, that's a little less than 5 minutes per object. We did sneak in the first one just a shade before start time. That helped us get an edge, so we cheated a little bit. But here we are stacking NGC 6633. Let's just see quickly what Stephen James O'Meara says about this. He says under a dark sky, 6633. Here we go. He says it displays a fine 30 arc-minute long neck of stars oriented northeast to southwest. We can see those right in the middle there. Look for a perpendicular row of some 24 suns. Between 8th and 11th magnitude at the northeastern end of that neck. Oh yeah, we see that. And for a bright and tight ellipse of starlight at the southwest end. A bright and tight ellipse of starlight. So let's zoom in a little bit so we can see kind of what he's looking at. He says this is the neck of 24 or so stars, and then look at this perpendicular turn here. He's identified that. So we're going to go ahead and save this exactly as seen. It's a beautiful little open cluster, isn't it? So again, it's very loose, so let's do our observation here. Let's see. This is a loose This is a loose cluster with a perpendicular neck at the top. Beautiful. Something like that. Just a quick note about it. Here we are back at the live view. And if you're just tuning in, we're trying to do 25 objects in 2 hours tonight. So we've already snapped our picture. Let's see. This is 6633. So we're going to say 6633 here. Delete that from our working list. And then save. And then here, we're going to add it to the list of Herschel 400 observed. Oh, there's the meridian coming up. Let's hurry up and get out of its way. So there we go to the next target. And our next target is 6445. So let's go back up here. 6445 and hurry up and get there. This looks like it's going to be perhaps some kind of planetary nebula. Let's open up our info pane about it. It's called the Crescent Nebula. And we're going to center on it in our planetarium software. Wow, this is a beautiful part of the night sky. Take a look at this in our planetarium software, Starry Night Pro. Just a beautiful part. So star-rich. NGC 6445. Let's go back to our sharp cap here and change our title. 6445. And start do we need to? No, we don't need to. Let's start our imaging, because I think I see it right there in the middle. We'll change our title, 6445, a planetary nebula in 6445. It's on page 233 in Stephen James O'Meara's book. By the way, you can follow along with our list. If you just go to emeraldhillskies.com, under the Resources tab, we've actually marked the order of the objects we're going to look at tonight. 6445 is a planetary nebula in Sagittarius that has 2 T's. Everything else is single. Sagittarius. Okay, so let's put in this title. Planetary nebula in Sagittarius. 2 T's, Terius, and it's called the Crescent Nebula. Wow, this is a beautiful, even though it's tiny, it's a beautiful little planetary nebula there, isn't it? Let's dial the sky just a little bit darker. In fact, let's do a new color balance real quick. That's a little better. Dial the sky a little bit darker. Yeah, see a little better contrast in this. Look at that. We're going to dial in a little bit closer than 100% optical. See if you can see in the YouTube stream. I know it's going to be very tiny for you, so I'm going to use a digital zoom on our camera. Just zoom in a little bit via sharp cap. See if you can pick out some of the colors. I see over here on the left side a little bit more red, and here's some greens, and then look here in the middle, the hollowed out portion of the planetary nebula, and I'm sure somewhere inside of that hollowed out portion there is a white dwarf star that's backlighting all those puffed out gases that were sent out who knows how many thousand years ago. Look at this beautiful star there. We'll see what magnitude that is. I'm sure Stephen James O'Meara will tell us. 6445, right? Yeah. It says this nebula is immediately obvious in the 4-inch at 23 power as a non-stellar glow, which appears all the more obvious because it's so close to a bright star. And that bright star is a 6.5 magnitude star. It's center star alpha. Anyway, it says at 72 power, it looks like an annular Guess that means like a ring. Actually, it's more like two offset arcs of light. Yeah, we can see that, can't we? If you get in real close there to your screen. The northwest side is more difficult to observe because of the proximity of the 8th magnitude star. Increasing magnification at 101 power enhances the arcs and brings out some fainter stars. Higher power works really well with this nebula. Do not hope to see the nebula's illuminating central star, which shines at a dim 19th magnitude. There you go. He's just telling us about this. Let's zoom in a little bit tighter. Yeah, now we're starting to get pixelated there. So this is the best structure we can hope to find. And he's right. That center star is not really screaming much. Let's see, it's 10:15, 64:45. Yep, we're out of here. We got to get to our next object, so we do not have time to admire this anymore. This is definitely speed observing tonight. Let's switch back to next target. Let's go to live sky and 64:45. Why are we not? Oh, 66:45. Sorry, 66:45. We'll delete that from the working list. When we started out tonight, we had observed 120 objects in the Herschel 400 list. So we had 280 to go. 66. What in the world? I'm getting all mixed up here. 64:45. So the title was wrong. It's 64:45. NGC 64:45. And yeah, here we are. Let's do our observation. This looked like two arcs facing one another, and I'm going to give Omira credit for that. We could see red on the left arc, but couldn't make out the central star in 4 minutes of stacking, sadly. We'll have to come back to this sometime. All right, so that's 64:45. Let's add that to the H400 observed. Okay, the next is 64:40. NGC 64:40. We'll slew that and open up an information pane about it, and also center on it 64:40. Now we're in this rich part of the see this, looks like another globular here, globular cluster, yeah. We'll stack this just for a second. If you have not told us where you're observing from, please, if you're on the stream live, please let us know where you're observing from. Looks like we have about 14 people as a part. Welcome, Simon, from Western Australia. We're glad you're here. You're middle of the day coming up. Good to have you, brother. All right, so this is, there we are. Wow, look at that. Beautiful globular, and this is in 64:40. That's on page 233. Yeah, it's in Sagittarius. This at 23 power in the 4-inch in a dark sky. It's concentrated 2 arc-minute wide glow that's quite obvious under dark skies. And 72 power has a roughly 1 arc-minute core. Yeah, we can see that. And a diffuse halo twice as large. Yep. No stars are resolved. See, we're getting quite a few stars in our, let me switch back to the screen so you can see. In our RASA, we're getting quite a few stars resolved. Cluster does not get any easier to see with magnification. So this is where our 11-inch is doing us some really good compared to what Steve O'Meara was using. I think he was doing that to make a point that you could actually do the Herschel 400 with a 4-inch, medium size, almost smaller size scope. All right, so let's save this as seen since we're doing speed observing tonight. You know what I didn't do is the title. This is 6440, a globular cluster in Sagittarius. We'll do our little, this is a beautiful glowing globular, our 11-inch resolved mini of the outer stars. Beautiful. This is a very star-rich portion of the Milky Way, isn't it? Shasta Valley, good to have you here from Northern California. Welcome. Shasta Valley helped us in the Messier Marathon back in March. We did that. So welcome back, Shasta Valley. All right, so I think we already did get a picture of this. Let's go ahead and switch our sensor to next target. And 6440. Let's delete that from our working, and in our, we'll say it's added to the Herschel 400 observed. Next target is 6638. We were supposed to start it at 1020. We're 1 minute behind. 6638, trying to make up 1 minute. So we'll slew to that. I'm smiling because this is not my favorite kind of observing. Show info, we'll open up an info pane. Wow, there's a cool little satellite going across the screen of the planetarium software. And then we'll center on 6638. So back at the screen here. Still a star-rich portion. Look how many stars, my goodness. In Starry Night Pro Plus, it does a really good job. 6638. Let's change our title up here. 6638. And I see it right there in the middle, so let's start live stacking. We'll go down to the title bar and change that to 6638. And this is on page 234 of Stephen James O'Meara's book. It's a globular cluster in Sagittarius as well. A globular cluster in Sagittarius. So, let's see. There we are. This is a bright one. I mean, that shows up really well after just one 20-second exposure. We're in at 150%. So we're beyond the 100% of the optical. And look what a beautiful globular cluster this is. See what O'Meara says about this. This is 6638. It's a small but bright globular cluster near 3rd magnitude Lambda Sagittarii. Stu, good to have you on from New Zealand. Welcome. Glad to have you aboard. He says in his 4-inch at 23 power, it's a tiny speck of light. It's just 2 arc minutes, he says, shining like a slightly swollen 9th magnitude star, small but very condensed, but it's so easy. It's easy to see. At 72 power, he says it's a very nice sight, appearing as a round and highly condensed glow with a bright starlight pip at the center. Pip. At 101 power, he says the cluster looks like a brighter globular cluster seen at low power, having a small core surrounded by a speckled halo of light. That's a pretty good description, isn't it? The cluster's brightest stars shine at 14th magnitude. These can be swimming. They can be seen swimming around the halo at high magnification and averted vision. So he called it a small core surrounded by a speckled halo. It's a pretty good description. So go over here in the, we'll say, as Steve O'Meara said, a small core surrounded by a speckled halo. It's a pretty good description, I think. So we'll snap our Save exactly as seen. This is 6638. We'll go back over here to our 6638. Remove that from our working list here at Live Sky. We're using the cloud-based software that Simulation Curriculum provides because it has the ability to delete an object from an observing list. We're going to add it to the Herschel 400 observed list and switch our sharp cap back to next target, which is 6642, right on time. We gained that minute, gang. 6642. 6642. Good evening, Papa Tech. So glad you're here. The Summer Cloud Fest continues in Florida. So sorry to hear about that. What we're doing tonight, Papa Tech, is we're kind of like speed observing. I'm not sure I like it, but we're going to try to pick off 25 objects in the Herschel 400 list. This is a globular cluster. It's 6642. 6642. And the title bar down here, we'll change it to 6642 as well. And this is on page 234, 6642. It's in Sagittarius also. Globular cluster in Sagittarius. So our screen is settled. I see the globular right there in the middle. So let's start our stacking just to kind of pick up some of the dimmer members. And looks like we've finished our sequence. Let's see what Stephen James O'Meara says about NGC 6642. He says it's small and somewhat faint, but seeing it with the other globular, it's an awesome spectacle. It shows the dynamics of the depths of space. He says it might be too small to see in low power. He says at 4-inch 23 power, it's a small 2 arc-minute glow around a 10-minute southeast of an 8th magnitude star. You see the 8th magnitude star down here. There you go. The combined light of this star and NGC 6642 should attract attention. At 72 power, the cluster looks like a uniformly round planetary nebula with a bright core. Huh. I don't know if I would have called it that. 6642 doesn't really look like a planetary nebula to me, but that's, of course, we are observing. I would say this is unique Christmas ornament looking globular with a slightly greenish core. Maybe some of the glow of stars not being resolved. Maybe we need to dial down our greens a little bit. Papa Tech, wow, go, go, go. I know, it's like speed observing. Well, it's a beautiful globular. Let's snap that picture and switch back to next target, 6642. 6642. And we're going to delete that from the working list in Live Sky. And then we're going to go back to Sharp Cap. I'm sorry, to Starry Night Pro. If we can get it to pick up hello. And we're going to add it to H400 Observed. We already did our observation. And the next object is, that was 6642, right? 6642. The next object is 6629. And we're 1 minute ahead of schedule. Woo! 6629. You know, we probably should save that minute because one of these, I bet you anything, is going to be so faint we're going to need the extra time. This is a planetary nebula, and it's 6629. 6629, and it is in Sagittarius also. Planetary nebula in Sagittarius. When did you see? Greetings from Chicago. Imaging NGC 6823, Herschel 361 with my RASA 8 as I watch your speed run. That's awesome, Windy City. So glad that you're joining us. Thanks for being on the Herschel list with us. That's really cool. Two different forms. You're doing, I guess, astrophotography almost. Nice. Okay, so we're ready here, I guess. Let me make sure. Do you think we see this planet? Oh, yeah, there it is, right in the middle. I can barely make it out. So let's switch to start imaging. And let's see what Steve O'Meara says about NGC 6629. He says it's a small but highly condensed planetary nebula, and it's 3 degrees north-northwest of the third magnitude Lambda star in this constellation. It is very stellar. You need to use high power to see its tiny disk. He says because of its proximity to the 10th magnitude star, it's best noticed at 72 power and is 4-inch. Still, at this power, the nebula appears very stellar. In other words, it looks like a star to him, and you can see why. It almost looks like a star to us, too. You need to use the highest power you can muster to really see the planetary's tiny 15 arc-second disk. 15 arc-second disk. Okay, so we're at 150%. Right there it is. Boy, it does look like a star, doesn't it? Wow. But I tell you what tips it off is the green color. You know, not a lot of stars are green. Only special things are green in space. So that's what tips us off that this is a planetary nebula at the RASA's wide field of view that we have. Let's zoom in a little more. This is 220%. Boy, we still don't ever see anything more than a green disk. How about that? I mean, maybe if we, this is just 80 seconds, maybe if we imaged, what is it now, 10:32, so we have another minute or two, we might be able to detect that the green changes a little colors on the edges. You know how a lot of planetary nebulae will look red on the edges. Maybe we can draw some of that out. It's just that it's so small. Did he say 2 arc seconds? 15 arc seconds. So let's do our observation here, get that done. This planetary nebula, well, simulation curriculum, I hope you do. This planetary nebula is just 15 arc seconds wide, super slender. We could make out the green color at tip-off, but otherwise it did look very stellar, almost disk-like, like a small planet. 10:33. Well, that's unfortunately all the time we have tonight for NGC 6642. Hello from Georgia. Mike, good to have you aboard. Top Flight 602, glad to have you aboard as well. I think we can tell that that's, but look, compare it to this star, see? It looks a little bit different than that yellowish orange star there. But man, we just can't resolve it into a hollow core, can we? All right, let's take a picture just so we can say we did. But in reality, the picture is not going to show anything more than that little green disk in the middle. All right, let's switch back to our next target. This is 66 6642 actually. We never did change our title. 6642. And let's go to live sky. No, it is 6629. I apologize. We had changed it after all. 6629. What that means is we hadn't changed it in SharpCat. 6629. All right, now let's go back to live sky and delete 6629 from our working list, and back in Starry Night Pro, we're going to add it to our H400 observed list. Like I say, when we started the night, we had observed 120 of the Herschel 400 list, 280 to go. So we're trying to pick off 25 objects here tonight. Next object after 6629 is 6624, right on time schedule, 6624. Flew to it. This looks like another globular. Indeed it is. It's about 9th magnitude, and it's located in Sagittarius. So right away we'll change our title to NGC 6624, a globular cluster in Sagittarius. And there it is. Look at that. We really don't need to stack it, do we? 6624, but we will, just to say we did. Start imaging. Okay, so while that's imaging, let's see what Stephen James O'Meara says. 6624, small but bright globular cluster basking in the glow of a 3rd magnitude delta star. Look how bright it is. It's tiny and bright. Easy to sweep over if you move the telescope too fast, so take your time scanning. Globular cluster's core is a highly condensed, but it becomes more globe-like with averted vision. We don't have to use averted vision with our RASA 11 and EAA, Electronically-assisted Astronomy. If you have trouble spotting in a sweep, just move the globular cluster's location, then use averted vision to scan the field for a star-like object surrounded by a tenuous haze. You'll find 6624 at the southwest end of a 7 arc-minute wide chain of 3 stars. Let's back off so we can see that chain a little better. Do you think he means this chain? Yeah. Or this chain? Or this chain? This is like a river of stars. Boy, it's a beautiful little globular, isn't it? Look at that. It's like it has spokes. One, can you see this? Yeah. Let me let you see the structure a little more. I know this is digital and it's going a little bit pixelated on us, but look at this spoke here, and that spoke there, and this spoke, and that spoke. This is a globular cluster wheel. Let me get rid of some of that sky glow. Wow. I like this. This is beautiful. This is NGC 6624. We could see spoke-like arrays of stars striking out from the core in at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 directions. Fascinating. I'm sure that's not because of anything you know, structural, but it's just an accident, I suppose. Put in a high power, 72 power, some of the field stars can be seen projected against the cluster's outer halo, especially the west, northwest, and east. The brightest stars in the cluster shine at 14th magnitude, so the combined light of clump members should pop in and out of view, especially in the outer halo. The cluster is so condensed it takes power well. I think it's a beautiful little cluster. This is exceptional. 6624. Kimberly, thanks for chiming in there. Pier-Tech, also beautiful. No, Omir doesn't say anything about those spokes, sadly. But he's only using a 4-inch scope, and ours is 11-inch, so it just might have been the difference in the resolving power. Like I've said before, he uses 4-inch to try to prove a point that you can see the Herschel 400 with a 4-inch scope. But man, this is really fun, isn't it? Look at those little spokes. Anyway, did we already take a picture of this? I bet we did. And then let's go back to next target. This is 6624. 6624. Delete from the working list. Save. Add to the Herschel 400 observed list. 6624. Next object is 6528. I'm right on schedule. 6528. So let's slew to it. Center on it and Starry Night Pro. Whoops. That was an accident. And we're going to also open up the information pane. This is a globular cluster in Sagittarius as well. It's globular cluster night here at Emerald Hill Skies. 6528. 6528. A globular cluster in Sagittarius. This is another rich part of the sky, and you can see the globular cluster right there in the middle. Let's do a quick plate solve, just again to reorient, because look, we're seeing now multiple globular clusters. This is such a star-rich environment. Let's back off to look at the whole field. Isn't that beautiful? And there are two globular clusters that just stand out to us. Beautiful. Yeah, so it was this upper one. So you see what's happening now. It's queuing up the screen for us. Pier-Tech, thanks for joining in. Don't hurry too much. Don't want to miss the magnificence of the night sky. You are right, Pier-Tech. We just decided to try this. Can we do 25 objects in one night? That was just a sort of on a dare. Pier-Tech, Vito, good to have you. Thanks for the encouragement. Your observatory and your pier is performing well. So here's that globular. So we'll start imaging just to pick up a little more detail from it. It is 6528. Let me change the name here in SharpCap before I forget. Lots of little plate spinning. 6528. Somewhat faint globular near a third magnitude. Oh my goodness, isn't that beautiful? It's near third magnitude Gamma Sagittarii off there to the left, I bet. Magnificent star-rich Milky Way field. I would say so. It's paired with 6522. These look like lint on a snow-covered sweater. They look like lint on a snow-covered sweater. 4-inch, 23 power, appears very small, 1 arc minute. Like a star with a tiny halo projected against the rich Milky Way. Averted vision brings it out at 72 power, remains small and dim. has a bright core and a halo appears mottled with averted vision. The brightest stars shine at magnitude of 15.5. Tell you what, we'll go back up to 100%, and it does look like a patch of lint on a sweater covered with snow. 6528. I'll put this in quotation marks. A patch of lint on a snow-covered sweater. O'Meara. Resolved well in our 11-inch. Again, there are some unique projections almost that appear to emanate from that middle of that core. I know it's starting to pixelate, but just look at some of those projections. They almost look like fingers. There's a finger, there's a finger. Here are two more, and that's the thumb. This is a hand like E.T. that's reaching out and holding this. I'm going to add that to our observation. We could almost see something akin, right there is where our observation log ran out of space in simulation curriculum's glitch in Starlight Pro. We could almost see something like a faint E.T. alien hand holding the snowball, ready to toss it to us. Hello. Come back to us. Why is it not coming back? There we are. See, there's a little alien hand behind it, and it's just ready to toss it at us. How about that? Okay, save exactly as seen. Ernie, good to have you aboard from Buffalo. Nice to have you aboard for whatever time you can stay. Ernie, we're trying to do 25 objects in 2 hours tonight. So it's like, instead of speed skating, it's speed observing. So we don't have time to waste. We got to go to the next object. We're going to switch back to next target. This is 6528. We're going to remove it. 6528. Remove it from the working list. And save. We're going to add it to the Herschel 400 observed. And then head to the next object. And after 6528, we go to 6522. Ooh, we're 2 minutes over. 65, we've got to make up 2 minutes, gang. 6522. So we're going to slew to it. Center on it. So then another globular cluster, and this one is in also Sagittarius. Sagittarius is like the globular cluster headquarters of the universe. So we're going to change the title to 6522. 6522. Also change that in SharpCat. 6522. There is the target. We'll stack it just a little bit. 6522. 6522 on 237, yeah. Moderately large and surprisingly obvious globular cluster near Gamma Sagittarii. It's dimmer, but it pairs up with the other globular cluster well, he says. Much easier to see than 6528. Appears twice as large. It's just 2 arc minutes wide. Has a bright core with a swarm of dim stars. It's slightly elongated. I can see where he'd say that. Probably owing to a roughly 13th magnitude star to its southwest. Ah, yeah, we can see that, can't we? The cluster's halo sparkles with dim suns that mix with the Milky Way background. The cluster's brightest stars shine at 14th magnitude. It's a beautiful little cluster. We've got it enlarged too much. There, that's better. Look at that star field. My goodness, that's rich. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thanks for the warning there, Simon. Of the Milky Way, you mean? Yeah, did I not say that? Thanks, Simon, for rescuing me. Wow, just look at that star field. You know what that was? When I went like that, that's the sign of breathtaking. That's beautiful. Now look at these double globulars here. This is why he said it reminds of M81, M82. Okay, we're going to save a scene. This is 6522. We're going to switch to next target, 6522. Remove from the working list. There we go. 6522. Pairs well with 6528. That was the right number, right? Yeah. As Omira said, wow, what a star-rich field. Beautiful. Okay, 6522, 6569. Okay, we gained 1 minute. 6569. Slew to it. Open up the info pane. It's another globular. This one is in, you guessed it, Sagittarius. And we're going to center on it. At least we moved out of that field. 6569. 6569. Back in Sharp Cat. 6569. There it is in the middle. Wow, it's nice, isn't it? Start imaging. 6569. Omira says it's a moderately small and somewhat diffuse. Somewhat paradoxical, appears small and condensed at low power, but large and diffuse at high power. In a small telescope, it might be washed out under suburban skies. We're in the outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky, and we have a lot of background light pollution. But we do use a Celestron light pollution filter, the one that's designed for the RASA 11. It's a rather expensive filter, but boy, it does a good job for all these general targets. At 4 inches, 23 power, Omira says it's small and condensed. At 72 power, the cluster swells to about 4 arc minutes and appears as a circular patch of uniform light. You can see where he would say that. With vertivision, a dim core can be seen. Yeah, like a comet with a dim inner coma. Cluster's brightest stars shine at 15th magnitude. So any stars you might suspect in a small telescope are most likely field stars. But with an 11-inch, it's just a little bit more beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. I would say that reminds me of almost like a jellyfish shape. Maybe it looks like some kind of a thing of steel wool, you know, a glob of steel wool. Let's save that exactly as seen. And our observation will say, looked like a glob of steel wool. NGC 6569. You know what? We'll bring down the background glow. Let's do a quick little color balance again. Bring down the sky glow a little more. So we're going to increase the contrast. And that brings that object out a little more, doesn't it? NGC 6569. Etienne says, wow, indeed. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go back to next target, 6569. Delete from the working list. Save. 6569. Add to Caldwell or to Herschel 400 observed. Next target after 6569 is 6520. Right on target. Slew to it. Center on it. Boy, we didn't move very much, did we? Did I not choose the next target? 6569. 6520, sorry. 6520. 6520. Slew to it. Center on it. Show the info pane. This is an open cluster in Sagittarius. 6520. GC 6520. An open cluster in Sagittarius. 6520. Beautiful. We can back off. And I don't know that we need to stack this much, but let's do it because we can. NGC 6520. NGC 6520. It's small but magnificent in one of the most glorious star fields of the Milky Way. Get ready for it. It's going to pop. Bam! In the smallest of telescopes, it will look elongated like a little spit of starlight. In 23 power, 6 brightest stars lie along a northwest-southeast trending line. Ah, I see what it means. Look. There goes an airplane or something. Look at the 6 brightest stars. He's right. That's beautiful, isn't it? You're back in Sharp Cap now, right? Let's see. The dark nebula Barnard 86 can be seen to the northwest like an ink stain. Oh, yeah. In our view, that's right underneath it, isn't it? Like an ink stain on the bright skirt of the Milky Way. The star in the middle of the line is a ruby among diamonds. Oh, yeah. Look, this star is what he means. See how it's got a little bit of a greenish hue. We're going to zoom in a little bit tighter just so you can see that better on YouTube stream. See that little green emerald there? With a vertivision, a circular halo of fainter suns surround the line like a crowd during a parade. At 72 power, about 16 stars are obvious with others popping in and out of view. I'll tell you what, if we stopped, we could count a lot more than 16 with our 11-inch. It's a very tight cluster, so high magnification is a must. He found the view best with a 5mm Nagler and a 3-power Barlow, so it gave him a 303. At this power, a stunning circle of stars surrounds the red ruby heart of the cluster. Oh yeah, look. Here is the red ruby, right there. We're seeing a lot more than 6 stars. And then the parade, the people observing the parade, this is a beautiful open cluster, isn't it? Wow, look at that dark nebula here. What did he say that was? Barnard. What are we on here? 6520. Is that right? 6520? Yeah. Oh, here it is. 6520. Barnard 86. So we're going to say, wow. No. Simulation curriculum. We've fixed this bug for us. Wow, what a beautiful sight. The star field, the open cluster, Barnard 86, the dark nebula below, gorgeous. Ruby star in the middle of 6 of a line of 6 plus stars, O'Meara. It's beautiful. So save exactly as seen. Very cool. Beautiful cluster, Ernie says. Etienne, wow indeed. Wow, you guys right. Mike, very cool. Let's switch our sequencer back to next target. 6520 is going to be history in our working list for now, till we go through the Herschel 400 again someday. And back over here, 6520. And our next is 6540, and we're 1 minute behind schedule. 6540. Slew to it. Center on it. Open up the info pane about it. It's a globular cluster, and it's located in, of all things, Sagittarius. 6540. 6540, a globular cluster in Sagittarius. 6540. I guess this is it here in the middle. $65.40. O'Meara says it's a moderately small and diffuse globular cluster embedded in a rich swath of Milky Way near NGC 6520 that we just looked at. Just 5 degrees from the galactic center. Wow, it's just 5 degrees from the middle of the galaxy. William Herschel discovered the object on May 24th, 1784, and cataloged it as a faint nebula. You can see why he did that. Per Callender included it in his 1930 catalog as an open star cluster, CR364. And S. Georgovsky suspected it to be a globular in 1986. Eduardo Vica, Sergio Ortolani, and Beatriz Barbui confirmed NGC 6540 as a globular in 1994, and he tells the magazine it was Astronomy and Astrophysics. According to Brian Skiff of Lowell Observatory, this is the first NGC object to be identified as a globular cluster since the 1930s. How about that? Skiff also notes that there have been no good measurements of the visual magnitude of it to date. Most catalogs listed at 14.6, but this measurement is extremely misleading. These listings, however, do not reflect the object's visual appearance, so do not be put off by them. Instead, wash the slate clean and imagine that you're trying to seek out a 5 arc minute wide 10th magnitude comet with a 1.5 arc-minute wide central concentration. That is what NGC 6540 looks like in a 4-inch telescope. The only difficulty in seeing it is that the dim glow is projected against a bright Milky Way star field, so it requires a very dark sky and averted vision to locate the cluster's glow in a small telescope at low power. Amateurs under dark skies have detected NGC 6540 in telescopes as small as 2 inches. Wow, look at that. Well, I can see why it would get lost in a star field, can't you guys? Because it is very much like the star field behind it. You can see why it would not have stood out as a globular to 1930 observers. But it's cool, isn't it? It's NGC 6540. NGC 6540. NGC 6540. Delete from the working list. Save. Add it to the Herschel 400 observed. And then let's say here we can see why it would not have appeared as a globular to 1930 observers. That's an interesting object, very compact. Okay, the next object is 6544. We're 1 minute behind schedule. 6544, salute to it. Center on it, open up the information pane about it. It's also a globular and it's in Sagittarius. Wow, what a beautiful star field this is. 6544. Right there it is. Let's go ahead and start stacking this. 6540. No, 6544. So we need to rename it in shortcut. 6544. It's one of those easy to see objects that's all but lost in the crowd of bright clusters and nebulosities that populate the Milky Way's hub around M8, the renowned Lagoon Nebula. In a 4-inch at 23 power, it's a large faint glow with a bright and highly condensed core, like the nucleus of an old comet surrounded by the faint tenuous glow of its halo. 8th magnitude star, 6.5 degrees south-southeast. It's at 101 power, it's very mottled. Its brightest stars, 12.8 magnitude, form a northwest to southeast trending line. Are we reading the right one? 6544, yeah. The brightest portions of the globular cluster have a sideways V pattern. Yeah, you can see that. Cluster takes power well. Horizontal branch magnitude 15, 65, 44. Well, it's beautiful. It's not quite as rich as the star field we've been looking at, but look down here at this nebula. That makes it a beautiful field, doesn't it? That nebula, well, Mira doesn't mention it. Hello. That's around 6530. I don't know if it has a special name, but it sure is beautiful, isn't it? So let's save this exactly as seen. That nebula just sets off this globular in the middle, huh? Chester, good to have you here. Where are you logged on from, Chester? I forget where your town is. Ernie, thanks so much for wishing us good luck with this goal. 6544, so we saved it. Let's go back to next target, 6544. Delete from the working list. Save. 6544, add to Herschel 400, observed, and then we'll say, this field is amazing with the huge nebula around NGC 6530 plus this glob and the last one. This is amazing. 6544. We won't forget this, will we, gang? 11:10. We're pretty much on time. 6553. What we're trying to do, Chester, is do 25 objects in 2 hours. 6553. 6553. Slew to it. Center on it in Starry Night Pro Plus. This is a globular, and this is in Sagittarius. How many globular clusters are there in Sagittarius? This is crazy nuts. 6553. 6553. You can already see it there in the middle, can't you? Very faint. 6553. Where is it in Omera? 6553 is on page 241. Oh yeah, there it is. It's a small, moderately bright cluster, like a small ball of gray haze that gets gradually brighter towards the middle. I don't know about gray, though it has no obvious concentration at this magnification. 12th magnitude star flanks the cluster to the northwest. Yep. Core is dim but appears slightly elongated. With vertivision, the cluster starts to break apart into hazy clumps. Tell you what, this 11-inch RASA can resolve that pretty well. That's at 100% right there. Jen, good to have you here. Jen 0714. Let's see, Jen, I'm trying to remember. Are you you're the Jen from California, or you're the one from Atlanta, I think. I get it mixed up. Maybe Linda's from Atlanta and you're from California. Anyway, glad you're back. Welcome. What we're trying to do, Jen, is do 25 objects in 2 hours. And that means an average of 5 minutes per object, so we have to really book. It feels like we're speed dating, or speed skating, or speed observing. Okay, next target, 6553. So now we're going to go back here and remove it from the working list. I'm going to go here and add it to H400 observed. Boy, Starry Night Pro just doesn't want to come back up. How many globulars are there in Sagittarius? Beautiful, elongated, well resolved in our 11-inch. Okay, 6553. Next is 6514. We're doing great on our time. 6514. Oh my, this looks pretty. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. You know, it reminds me of the Trifid. Oh, it is the Trifid. It is the Trifid Nebula. 6514 must be the cluster. Nope, it's the diffuse nebula. We've already observed this. Look how it showed up right from the beginning before we even start stacking. Wow. 6514. NGC 6514. The Trifid Nebula. And it is located in Sagittarius. Oh my goodness. I can't believe this. I can't believe this telescope. Look at that. That's 20-second exposure. Wow. That's beautiful. Look how you can see both the reds and the blues out there to the right. Those would be the blues would be the oxygen, and then the reds are the hydrogen alphas. And they call it the Trifid because it's divided into like 3 major parts. Here's one part, there's another part, and there's another part. Is that not one of the most beautiful sights you've ever seen in your life? Jim, good to have you on from South Dakota. How about a broadcast on your software setups with the large views of the memes, etc.? Broadcast on your software setups, large views of the memes. Okay, we can try to do that. It is beautiful, Jen. Robert, good to have you aboard from London. Atlanta, Jen says. I am so glad you're here, Jen. You just seem to bring a lot of life to the party. Jen says, wow, it is stunning, she says. Woohoo! Go, Jen. Look at that. That's with 100 seconds. Let me see. We can't get lost here because we've got to stay on track, but this is so beautiful. 6514. We have this until 11:20, so we have another couple of minutes that we can image. This will just keep getting better the longer we observe. Let's go out to our full star field, so we can get a picture of what this looks like. That looks like a nice open cluster up there. This is just stunning. Let's see what Stephen James O'Meara says about this. 6514. Widely known as the Trifid Nebula, but this is not true. What? When Charles Messier discovered M20, on June 5th, 1764, he described it only as a cluster of stars, not a nebula. William Herschel was the first to notice the true nebulosity here. On July 12, 1784, he described it as 3 nebulae faintly joined around a double star. You can see that. He sees that double star in the middle. He gave these 3 sections 3 separate catalog numbers, but provided only one position. He rediscovered the nebula May 26, 1785, cataloged it again, but this time as a planetary nebula. Oops. Unfortunately, the original NGC catalog lists Messier's discovery of the cluster and Herschel's discovery of the nebulosity under the same listing, NGC 6514. Some star charts confuse the matter further by erroneously assigning the label NGC 6514 to the cluster and M20 to the nebula. Since you are after Herschel's contribution, you need to spy the 3 brightest patches of nebulosity surrounding the cluster. William's son, John, first used the name Trifid to describe the trifold aspect of the nebula. In a 4-inch is a clover of gas surrounding the 7.6 magnitude primary of the discrete triple star HN40, the nebula's primary source of illumination. Another ball of gas surrounds a 7.4 magnitude star just 10 arc minutes to the north. The trifold aspect of the nebula you seek surrounds HN40. All the nebulosity associated with Trifid spans 2/3 that of the full moon. This is one of the most beautiful objects I ever remember seeing. Look at the way this double star deal, in fact, this itself is a double star. And that's what makes the Trifid so beautiful. Let's back off till that double star stops pixelating. And let's shoot a screen grab of this, because this is one of the most amazing sights that I've ever seen. And we're going to call this NGC 6514. I bet we're going overtime on this, but it's because it deserves it. NGC 6514, and that's at 5 minutes with 16 subframes on 2022 08/22. Boy, if this doesn't want to make you an amateur astronomer, to think that you could see this in 5 minutes time, it's just remarkable. It's remarkable. Jen says, wow. Robert, at least you have clear skies, Doug. Can you send some my way to UK? What filter are you using? That's the same one we always use, the Celestron light pollution filter. The incognito astronomer, I wish I had a southern view from my house. Great quick image. Robert, the incognito astronomer, I wish I had a view of the sky. Socked in again. Jen, Robert Chandler, still getting rain. How are the temps? Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. All right, we're going to have to leave if we're going to finish our silly 25 objects. But that's so beautiful. Wow. So beautiful. NGC 6514. And the open cluster is what it's supposed to be. Add the Herschel. No, wait. Wow. Is it for sure that 6514 is not actually the Trifid? It's the cluster. Oh boy. Well, whatever, it's beautiful. We're going to add a log entry and say, this is such a beautiful object, deserves a lot more time and observation later. See O'Meara on the confusion about the naming. We easily distinguished the cluster, the 3 portions of hydrogen alpha nebula, plus the oxygen, the O2 nebula, nearby. Wow. Okay, 6514, next is 6568. 6568. Looks like an open cluster. Slew to it, center on it. Open up the info pane. It is an open cluster, and it's in Sagittarius. Open cluster in Sagittarius. 65, 68. 65, 68. An open cluster in Sagittarius. Okay. 65, 68. You can already see it's a loose open cluster. 65, 68. Moderately large and dim cluster near the 4th magnitude, mu Sagittarii. Coarsely scattered. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say when I said loose. The well-resolved open cluster, some 50 members, 11th magnitude. Stars are spread across 12 arc minutes. The brightest members form a crown like Corona Borealis with a crooked extension of stars to the west. Let's see if we can figure out what he says. Oh yeah, look, here's the crown. The brightest members form a crown. See that? This is nice. Brightest stars form a crown. O'Meara. Beautiful, though loose cluster. Save as seen. Next target. 65, 68, 65, 68, remove from the working list, save, add to H400 observed. Next object is 6583. And we're 2 minutes behind schedule. Slew to it. 65, 68. Open cluster. Is that what we just did? 65, 68? Yeah, 6583, sorry. 6583. To it, center on it, open up the info pane about it. 6583 is an open cluster in Sagittarius. It's open cluster night. 6583. 6583. And here we're going to back off. Boy, is it that? 65, 83. Is it that loose, or is it that little tiny cluster there? Let's do a plate solve just to be sure. $65.83. Jen, go Doug. Robert, it's been cooler, some rain earlier this weekend. Temperature's supposed to be higher. Public holiday. That's star candy for sure. No tour like ever. That looks disco. That's a good idea, Jen. I like your description. You should have. We're going to write your description. Disco. 6583. 6583 is on page 244. Here we go. Very small and dim open star cluster. Dark skies of moderate magnification. Did anybody ever see it? 35 members. Loose gathering of very dim suns. Do you think that's it right there in the middle? Let's use annotation. Yep, that's it right there in the middle. Look at that, 6583. I see. So that's a deep sky annotation is a feature in SharpCap. And it's just a way to confirm what you're looking at. 6583 is a very small and dim open star cluster. Dark skies, moderate magnification required to show it well. Small patch of ill-defined light. With averted vision, the patch dissolves into a loose gathering of very dim suns. At 72 power, it's a small patch of fuzzy light against a rich Milky Way background. 35 members, a dozen of which may be visible in a small telescope with concentration. 35 members, 6583. Oh yeah, we're seeing it much better now that we're stacking, aren't we? So it's right here in the middle. This is 6583. We could easily make this out with just 20 seconds, and even better at 120 seconds, or at 40 seconds. 50-ish members. Look at this line here. I don't think Omira mentions that. Yeah, it's because he was using a 4-inch telescope. I don't think it resolved it. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is probably a foreground star. Who knows how many of those are part of this cluster, but certainly looks like a fuse into a whatever firework. Long fuse, a trail of stars leading to the center. 6583. Save as seen. Sorry everyone, gravity seriously impacting on eyelids. We'll watch the recording. I hope that you and everyone watching continue to be safe and have clear skies. Jen says good night, see you next time. Mike says, looks like JC. Huh. I can see that. It's signed by JC. Jen, let's see. Oh, we can't. Jen thought of a disco. Mike saw the letters JC. Yeah, I kind of see it. J, there's the J, and here's the C, a little bit shallow C. I can see it, Mike. Switch back to next target. And this is 6583. 6583. Remove it from the working. Save. Add it to the Herschel 400 observed. And the next 6583, 6645. Oh my goodness, we're 4 minutes over. Hurry! 6645. Another open cluster. In Sagittarius. 6645. 6645. 6645. See what Stephen James O'Meara says. Glad that you're still so enthusiastic. This fills all of us with joy, as this is how we all feel when imaging. Got it, Mike. Slow tonight. Thank you, Robert. This really excites me. I love learning about beautiful, spectacular things in space. It just awes me. You're cool, Jen. 6645. Nice open cluster, rich assortment of stars. Oh my goodness, it does look rather diffuse, so it might be somewhat challenging to see under suburban skies. It's a cinch under dark skies. You have to squint to see it in the photo above. Man. Large and diffuse congregation of dim suns, 40 stars of 8th magnitude and fainter, appear somewhat rectangular, oriented north to south. Irregular bright members scattered haphazardly around its ragged halo. 6645. Oh wow, we're zoomed in on it, aren't we? You can see why he thought of it rectangular. I don't think it's hard to find at all. I think it stands out really well. 6645. 6645. Why did we not see that? 66. We have 23 on board. I can't believe all I've learned here. Jen, you're so nice. You know, this does not appear to be in here. Did we already remove this? That's confusing. Anyway, let's go back over here and if we can get, hello. Oh look, it wasn't in the working list. That's confusing, isn't it? 6645. Anyway, this stood out immediately. Rather rectangular. O'Meara. $66.45. Next is $66.64. $66.64. $66.64. Slew to it. Center on it. Show the info. It's an open cluster in Scutum. S-C-U-T-U-M, the shield. Open cluster, 6664. 6664, an open cluster in Scutum. It's like Scutum along the carpet, right? 6664. Huh, so there's a big cluster down here. But this is the one in the middle. Got it. Let's back off to the full and then switch to, there you can see that big cluster in the lower left, but we're looking at the one in the middle here. Hmm. $66.64. That's on page 246. It's a large, fuzzy, scattered open cluster hidden in the glare of fourth magnitude Alpha Scuti under a dark sky. It's easily spied in binoculars once you know where to look. Brightest members are unevenly spread across 12 arc minutes and are aligned north-northeast to south-southwest in the shape of a semicolon. Now that's interesting. A semicolon. At 72 power, it appears sparse without any central concentration. With imagination, the stars can be seen as Santa's sled or a swan boat. What? Santa's sled or a swan boat. So is that this? What? Is this the sled? A swan boat. I guess so. Look, it does look like Santa's sled. That's ridiculously funny. Santa's sled or a swan boat. Oh, Mira. Hilarious. No central concentration. That's hilarious. 66.64. Do you guys see the Santa's sled? I don't think so. Well, we'd have to connect the dots. We need a marker. I suppose this must be the front of the sled, and that's the front of the runners, and this is the bag of toys, and Santa's sitting right here. Can you see it? There's a thing here called Save Santa's Sled. That's hilarious. So it's 66.64. Delete. Save. Add to Herschel observed. Next target. 6712. 6712. Slew to it. Cinder on it. Show the info pane. It's a globular cluster in scutum. 6712. 6712. A globular cluster in scutum. I see the swan head, Stu said. Jen, kind of, but where are the reindeer? Jen says, you have to have reindeer. Stu said, maybe they're the next constellation over. Yeah, I think you're right. That's a nice little globular here. 6712. 6712. Next, start imaging. You You guys can already see it, can't you? Kimberly laughed and Jen said, LOL, Stu. 6712. Moderately large and pretty bright globular cluster. Pale round glow. In a small telescope looks like the head of a comet. Large telescopes, many of the stars resolve nicely. Very compact-like in a 4-inch, 23 power. With averted vision, cluster's edges begin to resolve, although it's hard to judge. Partial resolution is possible in a 4-inch. For the brightest stars in the cluster shine at magnitude 13.3. The core screws in with a direct gaze and looks irregularly round with averted vision. At 72 power, it looks like a misty globe bristling with fuzzy starlight. Comes alive with 101 power. The outer halo is speckled like flecked metal. I couldn't see any central concentration, no bright stellar pip. What's a pip? 6712. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I can see what he says. There's no core. Let's do another color balance here. Much better. Let's bring our darks over. That let us see a lot more, didn't it? Save as seen. This is 6712. Beautiful, beautiful, what would you call this? What would you guys call this? Swarm of 13th magnitude stars, no central core. Save as seen. 6712. 6712. Remove. Save. Add. Herschel 400 observed. 6712. 6755. 6755. Slew to it. Center on it. Show the info pane. It's an open cluster in Aquila. Aquila, the eagle. Open cluster in Aquila. 6755. 6755. An open cluster in Aquila. You could call it Aquila, I suppose, if you wanted. 6755. 6755. Whoops, we gotta go to next target. There you go. Right there it is. 6755. Start imaging. 6755. Large and moderately bright open cluster. Best seen in a small telescope under dark skies. Beautiful object in a large telescope at low power. That's what we have. Drum roll, bam! It is beautiful, isn't it? Very large and scattered. Elongated core oriented roughly northeast to southwest. 3 dozen stars are visible at 72 power, randomly scattered into bits and fragments. 150 members at 11th magnitude and fainter. 150 members, that's pretty big. No central concentration here. Almost doesn't even look like an open cluster. It just looks like a rich field, doesn't it? NG 6755. 150 members. Very open. Almost just looks like a rich star field. 6755. 6755. Remove. Save. Add to Herschel 400 observed. Huh. It's odd. 6755. Next target. Did we photograph this? And the next target is 6756. 6756. Slew to it. Center on it. Didn't have to move much, did we? It's another open cluster. It's also in Aquila the Eagle. 6756. 6756. Whoa. Where is this one? It's just right there in the middle. 6756. Very small, somewhat dim open cluster, about 1 degree south of 5th magnitude, 19 Aquila. Small 4 arc-minute round diffused glow like a 10th magnitude comet without a tail. Lies almost midway between and slightly north of 2 9th magnitude stars. Huh. Cluster remains small, uniform glow with no stars resolved at a glance. Its core, however, appears somewhat enhanced with averted vision. 40 stars, 13th magnitude. Do you think it's the one down here, maybe? Right here? Is that it? Let's do a plate solve only, and that way it won't move off of this screen. This is this is 6756. 6756. 6756. Vito. He's too caught up in his work with an astronomer. Sorry. Jen Poke. Pretty hard, Doug. Show us the sky, please. Kimberly. Hello. He forgot us. Someone poke him. Can we see the last one? Beep, beep, Doug, we're here. Black screen, Doug. Maybe his camera cable came out of the camera. That's some black sky. Great black hole. Where did you go, Doug? Did someone turn off the lights? There's a notorious cheap and nasty local wine here called Aquila. No video. Can't see. Let us see. That was great, you guys. Sorry about that. Show us 6755. Can almost see it in the reflection of his glasses. That's hilarious. Okay, you're back on the screen now. I guess we did the tool thing, so let's do the deep sky annotation. So this is 6755 down here, and this is 6756. So you're actually seeing them in one screen here. So again, this is 6755, this is 6756. Now let's get rid of both little circles. Deep sky annotation. So this is 6755. This is 6756. And my apologies for being so caught up that I forgot about what screen we were on. This is very loose, but with a bit of nebulosity. So we're talking about 6756. There's a bit of nebulosity here. And let's do a quick little color balance, and let's move our blacks right there, and then bump up the nebulosity a little bit, and you'll see what I mean. Isn't that interesting? There's like a glow here. It's very small, so it's tiny. But still there's a glow. So that's 67. It doesn't count if we didn't see it. Agree, Mike, but luckily they're both there. Forgot. All right. Didn't forget about you. We're just caught up trying to finish this crazy time warp. Next target, 6566. Remove. Remove, save. We just have 4 minutes. 65, 66, add to observed. And now let's go to the last image, which is 6781. We're going to finish this, guys. 6781, planetary nebula. Slew to it, center on it, show info on it, planetary nebula in Aquila, 6781. Let's go to the title. This time I won't forget to move you off of it. 6781, a planetary nebula in Aquila. Go back to SharpCat, 6781. Start imaging. Wow, that might be it right in front of us there. 6781 is a fairly large and bright planetary nebula. From a dark sky, it's apparent with direct vision in a small telescope. Probably be a challenge to see under suburban skies. I call it the Ghost of the Moon Nebula. That's a good name. Right there it is. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's a very round and somewhat concentrated 2 arc-minute glow that shines with a uniform luster. At 72 power, it's a beautiful ghostly glow that looks like the ghost of the naked eye moon. Wow. Love O'Meara's nickname, the ghost of the, what do you call it? The ghost of the moon, the Ghost of the Moon Nebula. Ghost of the Moon Nebula. Uniform. Glow. 6781. Now, let's do, because this is, let's do another color balance. And that's decent. And let's pump up the colors a little bit. Look how you can see the reds around the outside, and we're starting to see the greens in the middle. So green, amazing the color variations. Name that, Doug in a time warp, he said it. Great ending for the night. What's that reddish circle in the middle? Well, that reddish circle is the planetary nebula. NGC 6781, and the greenish stuff in the middle is being illuminated by that star, the little white dwarf in the middle. And look at the way the red shell was puffed out. You know how we've talked about planetary nebulae. This is just really awesome, isn't it? Okay, we have 1 minute to spare. We finished 25 objects in one 2-hour observing session with just a little cheating. We started about 5 hours early. 24 would have been the exact number. We kept with our pace of 5 minutes. Thank you all for being willing to put up with that race that we were on. It keeps us from maybe delving into the more like the subtleties of each object. But I hope what you experienced, I know I did, is that time goes really fast because you're moving from one object to the next, literally in 5-minute segments. So thank you for putting up with all that. We're going to just save this as seen. And you know how sometimes we do a little screen grab. This is such a unique object. We're going to do a screen grab of this, and we'll call it, obviously, NGC 6781, and this is just 3 minutes, which is unbelievable. 10 subframes on 2022-08-22. Actually, we're into the 23 now. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did like this content and you like content like this, we would love it if you would click thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we invite you to do that. If you like content like this, that is. If you don't like content like this, please don't subscribe, because this is what we do. Tonight I had a lot of fun with you guys. You hung in there with us, and I hope you'll come back. When we started the night, we had 280 objects to go. So having observed 25 new ones, 280 minus 25 is that 255. So we now have 255 objects left to go in the Herschel 400. I'll just glance down here. Found the target. Massive explosion, frozen in time, Stu says. Etienne, yes. Jen, that was great. I'll have to go back and watch from the beginning. Thank you, Doug. You're very kind, Jen. What an encourager. Mike, awesome session. Etienne, thank you again. Stu, my favorite was the 5-minute black screen, followed closely by the Trifid Nebula. Jen laughs. Haha. Dane, good night, Doug. Stu, thanks, Doug. Great session. Some of them would be good to come back to and resolve for longer. You're right. Stu, 6 more sessions like this one. Wow. Is that right, Stu? Oh my goodness. 6 more sessions like this one, and we'll be done with our Herschel 400. Of course, we got to wait till the right time of the year because they're only visible in certain times of the year. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to click thumbs up if you want. Subscribe. We love you guys. Thanks to God for making all these cool objects. I mean, think about it. God made the Trifid Nebula for us to look at tonight. That is just wild. We look forward to seeing you again on another night. Come back, Emerald Hill Skies. Until we see you again, have a great evening, and we'll catch you later. God bless.